Welcome back to another episode of Comic Book Karaoke. My name is Chris Jordan. I'm your friendly neighborhood geek, and this is episode 5, which is titled Diversity, Period. So, let me just quickly explain, if you don't know by now, I'm sure you do, what Comic Book Karaoke is all about. It is the 2020s reboot conversation, and real conversation at that, about real things that really affect us as a multiverse and a multicultural society of geeks around the world. So, today, let's talk about today. We have, our guest contributor. Her name's Terry Morolane. She's an influencer on Instagram, and she's really an upcoming great and just vibrant broadcaster too. Terry is like, she's everything. I mean, she's everything. I kind of am a little bit biased because she's one of my mentees in my mentorship program, but I really am not. When you see her and you meet her and you hear her, you'll know exactly what I mean. So she is going to be taking us through, first of all, the representation of the Black, culture and community in the media space and the pop culture space, and then we're going to segue into those really difficult conversations.
My name is Terry Morolane, and I live in Johannesburg. I'm a radio personality and I'm also a trader. By day, I work at a CFD Forex broker in client relations. One thing I'm particularly passionate about is change for the better. Hence, I consider myself a woman empowerment enthusiast and an activist. I greatly believe that greatness is very much attainable and that reaching for the stars is possible.
When I was a kid growing up reading Marvel Comics, there was like 5 primary black characters. There was Luke Cage, there was Falcon, there was Black Panther, and if you really wanted to stretch, there was Misty Knight and there was Storm. And that was over 40 years ago. And now there is Luke Cage, Falcon, Misty Knight, right. Storm, Black Panther. Not much has changed.
As a kid, seeing Luke Cage on the shelf, it was life-changing for me. It made me realize that, wait a minute, you mean to tell me this brown person, he's able to do some of the things that I saw Captain America do. And we're at this place and time in our culture and our society where, we're starving for it.
Just sitting at a con, you see other adult African-American males come up to you, and they're not really comic book fans, but they kind of wander into the con to see what's going on, and they get excited to see us because we represent them, representation, and that's why it's so important.
And then the adults bring their kids around,
right.
And then it becomes, you could do this someday.
They see themselves in us.
What did I tell you? It was a very short introduction. You're going to see a whole lot more of Terry in just a moment, right here on our Diversity, Period, episode of Comic Book Karaoke. Now, when it comes to representation, let's just look at the facts, man. Let's look at the facts. We're not trying to make anyone feel like bad, and when I say that, we're definitely talking about the white community around the world. But here are the facts, and they came from a 2019, that's about the closest that I could get to a statistical survey that was done, and it was around 34,000 comics that were analyzed to get these statistics. Basically, 80.5% of characters within comic book culture were white. Hispanic rose up to about 7.2, Black 4.9, and Native American was at 0.7. So, you can't argue with clear and cut data like that. So we are, again, I always say this, we're in the 2020s, man. There is and there has been a lot of attention that was brought on just recently with hashtag Black Lives Matter, and then we had the whole I mean, there was just, it's kind of that ignorance of wanting to make a statement. No, it's hashtag all lives matter. It's because, everyone else that isn't from a certain, diverse culture, diversity of culture, and that goes from every way, just doesn't see it the way that, any particular other side person in a culture does. And that was again where the ignorance just faded up. I mean, can we just have a moment there? And a moment it was not, because when we come to a movement, that is what it is. It's a movement that has to be something that is permanent and is growing. That's where I like to describe the concept of press porn. The press is actually the villain. And I know I work in it. I've worked in it for 20 years. But press porn is where we go and we publicize something, like what happened to George Floyd. But then we also we absolutely segue to something else. So, for example, just recently, Joe Biden used this entire I don't even have words for it, of what happened out in the States. And he used it in his election campaign. What we didn't really focus on, because it wasn't really news, was the fact that the George Floyd Act that was going to be passed about re-educating police was a confusing and complicated conversation that couldn't be amended or come to a consensus within their own government themselves, right? And so it was just scrapped, just like that. That's what I'm saying to you. The concept of press porn is about, this is great, let's put it here, let's focus on that, let's make it all fair. But then, what really happens? That's where trivialization comes. It's a narrative that is fed down from person to person, and in 2020s, we're all about me, right? Individualism, right? Seems nice, but it's not. I want to speak, I want to notice, and I don't care about anybody else. So, I've said my say, let Terry have hers, and we'll come back and we'll meet in the middle. Wasn't I just right? Well, I mean, right here, and it's kind of one of those things where I am not insecure. I just want to compete with I'm putting my best, beauty forward. I don't want to completely just make you all about the beauty, because you really are not that.
Yes, beauty with brains, Chris.
But aren't you glad that you're also beautiful? And
yes, there's definitely some pretty privilege. But if I could choose between my looks and my mind, definitely my mind.
But now
Beauty doesn't last forever.
Yeah, well, I mean, you must enjoy it while it lasts.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm saying to you. So, okay, great. I'm so happy to have you here as well. And the thing is that I really want to just start out. Look, we're going to talk about diversity. Period, right? And just we're going to go straight into the conversation where it is, and it's just really, there's no elephants in this room, but there is a white person in the room, and so that really is it's not a cry for help, but it's the reality of what the world is representing. Before I get into that, you've done a thesis on black representation within media.
Yes.
I want you to first tell us a little bit about that and what you focused on and why that was important for you to spread that particular word out.
So it all started for me in 2018 when I watched Black Panther, and I was like to myself, this is amazing, but we need more of this. So that was like the baseline inspiration of my thesis. Yeah. So my thesis is about the politics of representation in mainstream media, and my research focus was about the fact that images are powerful tools of socialization. And I don't think people really realize that, is that when you're consuming something, whether it's motion picture or whether it's comics, you are subconsciously indoctrinating yourself, and the content you consume is in essence socialized in your everyday life. So that's why I feel that representation in media is very, very important.
Where is it? So, it's a silly question, but it must be asked. Throughout, obviously, this particular paper that you wrote, is it a no-go or is it a go? I mean, are we doing well or are we not doing well? Are we close to it?
I think that there's been a lot of positive change, And I think that the positive change needs to increase exponentially because we are behind in time.
That's what I was going to say. You know, it's nice and all, but we are in the 2020s.
Yeah.
So it's like, again, it has to be a carefully, like I say, trodden, surface that I've got to tread with this particular episode. Not because of anything, but more than I do not know.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And I won't be able to know ever because I'm not part of, like I say, a different
lived
culture.
Experience.
Yeah, well, I'm Mediterranean, and that's all I'll ever be. There's not going to be, much more to that. But that doesn't stop me from, and everyone else from, understanding more and more and more. Okay, so my thing is with, again, just last point on the thesis, what points would you, or did you, want to put forward and make happen, as in yesterday? So things that we need to, okay, here we go, let's do it.
I think we need to be very intentional about creating narratives that represent people in a positive manner. For example, myself as a black woman, I grew up consuming very Euro-American content. And I feel as though, you don't really realize how this is affecting how your identity and how you affirm yourself. So as I got older, I felt as though I wasn't seeing myself in images that are positive. And even if I wanted to, I had to intentionally seek it. It wasn't very accessible to get this kind of content.
So what were you seeing? I'm saying to you. So where you...
So I was seeing certain narratives were being pushed, particularly being a black woman, the strong black woman narrative, the struggle narrative. And there are so many phenomenological experiences that people go through. I mean, there's no one struggle or no one thing that we go through. Life is so complex. There's so much beauty. And why not push these narratives? I mean, they are happening. So we need to see these types of images.
I mean, obviously we can only... we can confidently speak within our own backyard, which is, we are South African, and we have come a long way when it comes to pop culture. I'm saying to you, and what that does for our various, like I say, the Rainbow Nation is such an old school term, but I'm upset we don't use it anymore. You understand what I'm saying to you? We're so far gone from that everyone's kind of like running with without a head, the chicken without a head, and we're trying to all do, well, I'm saying predominantly all do the right thing. Okay, but it seems like we're getting nowhere, so even with all that has been happening in terms of, like I say, moving forward, why aren't we getting anywhere?
When I think on a production level, let's take Hollywood. If there are directors or writers that don't understand different lived experiences, then those types of narratives are not going to be portrayed. So I think on a very, very high level, because obviously I know this is a very American context, but we consume American context, and we are in a very globalized world. Culture is somewhat homogenized. It's like we are all the same culture, but at the same time we're really not. It's quite complex in that sense. So I think it should start on that level. If you could push narratives which are positive for people of culture, this would in turn allow us to consume content that is positive and moving away from stereotypes.
So it is something that I did actually ask one of the other guest presenters, and it was that whole thing about consuming our own media, and we are at a space, and we can agree that this is like we are within the media space, feeding South Africa first. It's there.
It is there.
I want to. So here's my thing. I got a couple of questions, but when you when you wake up in the morning, do you feel like sometimes you say, but do I have to also keep pushing, like, you know what I'm saying to you, for constant, like today, must I push for more black empowerment? Do you understand what I'm saying? Why must I get up and have to push for it again? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what do you feel? Do you feel that this is obligatory, should I say obligatory, life that you have to live?
Well, I think it's my passion, so it's not as frustrating, but it's also tiring, But more than anything, I'm grateful that I have a voice and I'm using my voice to make change.
Yeah.
Yes, it does get exhausting when people don't really understand your lived experience, or when people make it seem like you're being unreasonable, like, just relax, consume, it's entertainment, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But it actually is, because images are powerful, they are socio-political, and they are also historical. And if we keep reusing the same narratives, there's never going to be change in the world.
Well, so again, sorry to cut you off there, but on that note, do you feel that there are storylines, I'm saying to you, we're saying life storylines that are constantly being like...
They are. Okay,
Which one?
Speaking of a South African, South African content, I don't particularly like the struggle narrative. And I also don't like the coming up narrative of becoming successful and being involved in crime. This is something that's just so popular amongst South African content, whether it's soapies, whether it's, if it's a Netflix series, there's always this crime narrative of, you're a black person, you're struggling, you're trying to get out the hood, and one day you become like a kingpin lord who's involved in crime and make it. So these are the narratives that kind of infuriate me, because you can become successful in many ways, and people are successful in many ways. We see it all around us. We need to see it in the media.
Let's take it from now. There's this very thin line. So let's say now a white person wants to, they want to do right. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter about, because I mean, no one, I don't know who believes in a sorry not sorry. Like sorry not sorries or nothing. It's what are you going to do now? But then there's this very thin line of crack, almost like ice. It's about to crack.
Yeah.
Where when a white person comes on and tries to support, they're so near to patronizing. You understand what I'm saying to you?
It can be quite tricky to just find the balance.
But that's what I'm saying to you.
Maybe the balance doesn't exist. Maybe
They can't be
what's
right.
important is the intention. If you want to make a difference, I think you'll go out of your way to, and sometimes you might offend people, but it's important to learn every day and to also unlearn.
In what ways?
Unlearning, I mean, you're a white man, Chris. You might have experienced certain things growing up. Perhaps you have racial prejudices. You don't, but perhaps you do. And, you could unlearn that. If you feel like you want to make a difference in the media space, you will want to do that. But first, you have to learn certain things. You have to understand that you might offend people, and that's just how life is.
I want to learn. Tell me.
You want to learn?
Yeah. For real.
I think you need to learn by surrounding yourself with the people you want to learn about. It's okay to have preconceived ideas, but you always need to add to your mind and to your intellect.
I just want to, but a little white investigator.
Yes,
so with me and friends, that I've had since high school. Especially made when I started out at campus radio. Like it's not, we don't sit around like the lounge and then I say, tell me more, or how did that feel because then now I'm starting to be the white person and the black person in the room. And that's never been a thing. I have one black friend. You know what I'm saying to you?
Now, let's talk about the latest aspect of your career, which is, it's quite extraordinary. All these years in movies, now all of a sudden you've hit the jackpot with a thing called Star Wars, which I saw last week, and I think just loved it. I think it's super. I think it's marvelous escapism, and It'll
sure.
clean up. But I mean, how did you come to be involved with a piece of science fiction like that?
Well, it arrived as a script. I was just finishing a picture in Hollywood another day to go, and the script arrived on my dressing table. And I heard that it had been delivered by George Lucas, and I thought, well, that's rather impressive, because he's an up-and-coming and very respect-worthy young director. So, and then when I opened it and found it was science fiction, I thought, oh, crumbs, this is simply not for me. And then I started reading, and it seemed to me the dialogue was pretty ropey. But I had to go on turning the page, and I mean that's an essential in any script. You've got to know what happens next, or what's going to be said next. And I went on reading. I thought, no, I like this. If only we can get some of the dialogue altered. And then I met him. We got on very well, and I found myself doing it. That's all.
And it's made more money than any other movie ever made.
So I'm told.
And
yes.
you've got yourself part of the action.
Ah, well.
2.5%, isn't it?
No, not quite that, no.
What is it? Sir Alec, how much is it?
Well, you want that story.
Please.
I tried to keep this dark. I don't know where this all sprang from. I think it was the Evening Standard to blame for this. I had a contract. My agent said I've asked for 2% of whatever, because we didn't think it would make any, I've had a percentage on a film before, and they lose money like mad if I have a percentage. And I said, oh, fine, all right, 2%. And the day before the film opened in San Francisco, George Lucas phoned me and said, he's he's like Alan Bennett, he's very diffident and very shy and quiet, and he has a funny little voice. And he said, I think the movie's kind of going to be all right. And I said, oh, I'm glad, George. And he said, yeah, the press quite like it. I said, good. He said, we're pleased with, very grateful for little alterations you suggested, and so we'd like to offer you another 0.5%, by making it 2.5%. And I said, well, that's marvelous, thank you very much. But a matter of a few weeks later, in fact, the day I saw the film, I've just seen it once, the producer, who again is a charming, delightful chap, I said, about this little extra something you were kindly offering, I wonder if we could have something in writing just so that, my agent and so on believes this. And he said, oh, about the 0.25%, yes.
No fool there. Yeah. So it's 2.25%. We
Yeah.
put that right. Yes, sadly. What's the fascination of it to you? Do you think?
I think a marvelous, healthy innocence.
Yes.
Great pace, wonderful to look at, full of guts, nothing unpleasant. I mean, people go bang, bang, and people fall over and are dead. But, no horrors, no sleazy sex. In fact, actually, no sex at all if it comes to that. And a sort of wonderful freshness about it, kind of like a wonderful fresh air. When I came out of the cinema into Tottenham Court Road, I thought, oh, Lord, London's awfully sort of gritty and dirty and full of rubbish, isn't it? Because this had all been so
I think that's
invigorating.
Absolutely right, actually. One of the few movies I've come out of recently where I really felt happy and uplifted when I came out. I'd enjoyed myself, actually.
That's all. I mean, people are going to read too much into it. It's a simple stuff for all ages.
Are they
But I
doing
think it's
that
great
now with
fun.
you because of the kind of, sort
Doing
of
what?
reading more into it, the sort of guru figure that you play?
Oh, yes, I'm getting some pretty strange letters.
Are
I
you?
don't mind telling you.
I can imagine, actually.
Oh, no, surely, yes. My wife and I have got problems. Would you come over and live with us for a few months? I think
Yes. You could have yourself a fine time.
Doing our special feature for Comic Book Karaoke. Yes, still Chris, and this is Jordan. He's my nephew, and it is our special feature called The Speech Bubble. So, what we do every time I meet with my brilliant nephew here, my little superhero, is that I'll ask him some great questions that, adults have really a hard time and conflict answering. And we're going to get basically the purest and probably most correct answer just by asking, oh, Jordan, are you okay? Are you good? He's hard to the camera. Hey. So do you just buy? I mean, who's your favorite superhero?
Huh?
Who's your favorite superhero?
Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel. The lady. Yes, she's cool. Why? Because she's the.
Most powerful.
Yes, she's pretty much very, 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 very strong. She can kind of take on the Hulk, but kind of. Okay, I'm gonna ask you a question. Tell me, do you know what bullying is?
Bullying.
Bullying. When someone bullies someone.
Yeah, being mean to them.
Okay, have you seen bullying like happen at your school? What happened?
So they bully someone at my school.
What did they do?
They say, I don't know, they say about that person at,
You can think.
bad things.
Okay, bad things. Okay. Does it happen to only one person? Does it happen to quite a few people?
2 people.
To a few people?
2.
To 2 people in particular?
Yes.
Okay. Are you friends with them?
Only friends with one.
Okay. Just because who is it, a he or a she?
She.
A she. Just because she's your friend. She's a nice person.
Yes, but I've got 2 she friends.
Okay. All right. Okay. So that's great. Okay. You're not friends with any bullies?
Nope.
No. You're not a bully.
I'm not a bully.
I know you're not a bully. Okay. Why is bullying wrong?
Because you're being mean to someone.
And it hurts their feelings.
Yes.
Right. Do you think that adults bully?
No.
Don't you? Why do you think that they don't bully?
Because they've been on the planet longer than you?
Yep. Yeah. And they would know better, hey?
Yes.
Yes, as they would teach. So me and your auntie and your mom, not bullies, eh? What would you do if you caught an adult bullying? What would you think?
I would think it was just a dream.
A dream, yeah? I mean, really now, hey. So, tell me something. It's just a quick one. It's just a short speech bubble. It's hearing what you got to say. We know there's a lot of superheroes out there, but they're made up, right? Okay, we
But
watch them.
some are real, like Spider-Man.
Okay, tell me. Why is he?
Sure about Superman.
No, don't worry. Tell me why you think Spider-Man's real.
Because I've heard that he's in America.
And any other proof?
No.
Okay, but he's definitely the real deal. Okay, all right. So besides Spider-Man, now,
Yes.
how do the rest of us? We're just normal people, but normal people can do really, really good stuff like superhero stuff. Give me 1 or 2 examples how. Let's say me, I want to behave like a superhero. What would I have to do?
You would have to save the city.
Okay, how do I save? Okay, let's start smaller. So,
Yes.
what would I do for the city?
Defeat all the bad people in there.
Kind of like the police should. Yeah, yeah.
Talk to the police.
I would talk to the police. I would be friends with them. Yeah.
Yes.
And what else do you think? More things.
I think that's all.
What about helping people?
Oh yeah,
Like-
helping people.
Yeah.
Like when somebody steals a bag from a granny, you
Yes.
have to give it back.
Right. Give me another example. So, let's say, how would he help? Or let's
You
say,
give the bags of money to the police.
yes, from the bank, right? Okay. So let's say I want to help little kids. How would we help them as a superhero?
Giving them. I don't know if I'm.
You don't worry. Okay. How would a superhero help mom?
Her purse back.
Your first back. How would a normal? So let's say me and you.
Yeah.
What would be the best thing that we can do for mommy today?
The best.
And we'd
thing.
be superheroes. We'll do this now for the camera because I like to show off. Yeah, Tommy.
I don't know.
Well, I don't think. What do you think mommy needs? Because if we give her what she needs, then we can be a
I think
hero.
she just needs relaxing.
Relaxing.
Like,
And love.
let me just say 50 minutes.
50 minutes is going to be good for her. Okay, we're going to do that. Do you want to be a superhero? Are you a superhero? You're a superhero in making. Okay, can we pull out our... Is mine bigger than yours? No, nearly the same. Nearly the same. There. We're still with Comic Book Karaoke and myself, Chris, because I just tried to cover that up. Alright, and we are rounding up the first part of episode 5, diversity, period. And coming up in the second part of this particular episode, we are going to be looking at the introduction of Black Panther and the Falcon, and why that was super massive in terms of a milestone, historical milestone in comic book culture in 1966. And you're like saying, well, the civil rights movement was happening and things needed to be said.